Chapter 3. It had been a while since Kaya and Chad had ventured away from home or studies. Kaya longed for the high mountain adventure of the continental interior. Chad enjoyed the awesome beauty and grandeur in the great cliffs and sweeping valleys of the mountains. The beauty and wonderful climate of Garamendia is unmatched for consistency and habitability. But people long for something different every once in a while, no matter what planet, space station, or asteroid they inhabit. Simulations cannot recreate the experience of having biological systems deployed in the acrophobic snowy land of Snædal. The Snædal Range is nearly 10,000 miles long. The range bisects the main planetary continent. Elevated plains flank the mountains on all sides. The highest peak rises 70,000 feet above the ocean and 95,000 feet above its deepest depths. Acrophon is the name given to this peak by the inhabitants which surround its lower flanks. Over the eons, precious metals and shining minerals have slowly forced their way up from the depths. They have fought their way through the folding and contorting of the planet until long last making themselves attainable. Brave souls of antiquity risked the climactic and altitudinal adversity of these mountains in search of riches. The dangers of these mountains had been minimized by technology. Despite this, the same spirit of adventure races through the hearts of modern visitors seeking this land's inhospitable beauty. Chad and Kaya left for the Acrophon of Snædal early in the morning. They now arrive at noon of the first sun, taken aback by the sheer grandeur. Even though they have been here before, they feel like this is once again their first time. The experience washes over their emotions like the freshly fallen snow on the surrounding landscape. The Gravita craft begins to land above the lower margins of an enormous glacial valley. The upper cirque of this valley skirts the Acrophon. Each side of the valley is protected by jagged arêtes. They look like worn teeth of some magnificent giant's saw. At its lowest margin, the valley looks like a sculptor has violently chiseled away at the base of the mountain. Here a lake has been revealed. Piles of the artist's rejected chippings surround it. A glacier dips its toe into the lake of milky blue opalescent water. In modern times, recreational activity is the attraction to these mountains. Flying to snow-covered mountains in a Gravita craft is a great pleasure. Inventing the well generator has opened the mountains like nothing before. While the Gravita craft can act as a great viewing platform, Chad's latest invention brings the mountains much closer. The Gravita orb delivers an intimacy with the mountain unimaginable before. Being pulled through the air and up the side of a mountain releases a powerful surge of adrenaline. Few activities known to the galaxy can duplicate this feeling. The Gravita orb is a small spherical device with a single well generator and a tunneled power source. It is controlled by a cortexual interface, freeing the rider's hands to hold on to a tow rope. Chad and Kaya open the cabin of the Gravita craft. They both feel the crisp, cold air of the great icebox envelop their bodies. Pinpricks of the cold air dance upon their open flesh. "Let's gear up," Chad insists. He hands Kaya her helmet, face mask, breather, gloves, hat, and snow skimmers. "Thank you, dear," Kaya replies. Chad pulls out the case containing their Gravita orbs. He opens the case and gazes down on one of the greatest achievements of his mind. He feels pride only obtainable by someone who has experienced a creation of their own intelligence. He had spent hours mastering the control system. The tunnel generator and well generator are both a great feat of miniaturizing. He needed to design them in such a way as to shield them from interacting. The gravitational field would pinch off the tunnel generator without his innovation. "Do I need to find a private place for the three of you? I can just hang out in the GC," Kaya jokes. Sorry, Kai. Every time I see an invention, I relive the experience of its creation. What are our stakes today? Chad inquires. The last one to reach the peak of the Acrophon has to manage the domestic AIs for a month, Kaya wagers. Sounds like my kind of wager. You're on, Chad accepts. Chad removes the orbs from their case. They both check each other's gear to make sure they will be safe. Their rope connections are triple checked. The systems protect their skin and respiration are enabled. They step out onto the glacier and fasten their skimmers. They test communication thoroughly between the cortextual interface and the orb. Kaya and Chad's eyes glisten with excitement as they look at each other with anticipation and readiness. Their hands tighten around the handles of their tow lines. "Gurrah!" they shout. In an instant they are off in clouds of powder. The gravita orbs pull them in great arcs along the slope. The ropes connected to the orbs are 50 feet long. For speed, the orb can skim the surface of the snow. Changing directions laterally, the rider can whip across the face of the snow-covered glacier. In doing so, the rider carves a great furrow into the soft powder. Sending the orb up high will create a flying experience. They race up the mountain like the wind. A terrain-following radar alerts the pair of an approaching crevasse. In an instant, the gravita orbs shoot up into the air. On the corticom, they shout, "Hold on!" The pair holds on tight, while the tension in their thin filament of life-saving rope whistles through the air. They swing across the obstacle. The icy blue depths of the crevasse appear bottomless. On the other side, they land on top of a wind-hewn cornice of snow. A part of the great sculpture shears off and descends out of sight. They are much higher now. The giant valley begins to narrow. They are in the clouds. Moisture in the air begins to freeze on their masks and breathers. "This is some cold skimming," Kaya communicates. "It sure is. It really makes you feel alive." Chad accesses the networked weather stations of Snædal and discovers that this cloud deck is around 1 mile thick. He checks his altimeter and finds that they are already halfway through the floating mass. Kaya is noticeably losing interest in continuing. She slows as they move towards the top of the cirque. They both stop and assess their gear. The breathers are so iced up that they are not allowing air into the elements. "Here, let me bring my gravita orb down. I can use a surface heater to defrost your breather. I'll reprogram it so that the well generator is deactivated. I will hold it against your mask. This will also allow me to redirect the energy that would normally be powering the generator to increase the electrical current to the heating module. I don't want to overheat the module, so I will need to make sure that the internal temperature monitoring system has a feedback loop that will act as a temporary thermostat of sorts. It will work quite well. Of this I am certain." Chad comments, all the while paying more attention to his ideas and the orbs than Kaya. "Oh look, I have already de-iced my breather by beating it with my tow handles." Chad looks at her. He notices she has already cleared away the ice that was blocking her breather. He takes one more furtive glance, discovering he too can, with some mild exertion, clear his breather. "See, that is why I bring you along. What would I ever do without you?" Chad questions. "You bring me along because I give you something that your huge brain cannot do without. The notion that there is more to this universe than engineering and equations. There is something wild and illogical that still makes perfect sense when it shouldn't. You also love losing," Kaya orates while quickly disappearing into the misty pale. Chad follows her through the bubbling clouds. The dark gray surroundings they occupy begin to lighten. They come ever closer to that place of inspiration where light is no longer broken by suspended dihydrogen monoxide. Kaya calls out on the corticom, "Come on, sleuth slug! It is absolutely gorgeous up here." Chad reaches that mystical horizon and sees himself on the flanks of the Great Horn. The retinal delight is breathtaking. He skims along the backside of a snowy ridge which looks like a short ramp to the summit. He looks out over a great cliff to his left and sees an ocean of beautiful white billowing cotton. The light of the two suns paint an ever-changing masterpiece on the canvas below. Even though the temperature is quite cold, the suns warm his side and counteract the biting cold he felt in the clouds. Kaya is visible in the foreground, darting back and forth. Two steep valleys rise on opposite sides of the ridge. "I will take the chute on the right," Kaya offers. "You know I always let you be right," Chad counters back. "You let me be right? I never knew always is synonymous with never." The ridge narrows to the great spire. Kaya swings to the right and Chad takes the chute to the left. Snow at this elevation tapers off. Clouds struggle to lift water to these heights. The skimmers retract into their boots as rocks start replacing the snow underfoot. At this point, Kaya and Chad begin to skip their way up the mountainside. The gravita orb could lift them straight up by the tether. The joy of skipping across the face of the mountain, boulders and small peaks, is too much to pass up. Kaya reaches the summit first. She gives out a victorious yelp. Chad is only 1,000 feet below when he sends his congratulations. "Great job, honey. Be sure to deactivate your gravita orb so we don't tangle our lines," Chad coaches. "Already bringing her in," Kaya responds assuredly. When Chad reaches the peak, he sees Kaya has already settled in. The top of the mountain is small when compared to its height. It is only about 12 feet on a side. Each side drops off precipitously. Looking back in the direction they had come, they see a blanket of white clouds. The windward side of the mountain shears the clouds like the bow of a great ship. On the opposing side, the clouds twirl and billow. Wispy blocks of broken cloud drop off into the darkness. Chad deactivates his orb and sits down next to Kaya facing west. The suns are lowering in the sky. One sun gives off a yellow light, while its twin brother casts off a heart-warming red. The variation in lighting is due to the different fusion elements burning in each sun. At first, the difference in color is quite subtle. Kaya and Chad sit together in silence as the difference in coloration becomes apparent. The flaming wheels seem to defy gravity as they hang on the horizon. The land beyond the clouds is already darkened. Slowly the light from the first sun drops below the horizon. A light orange-pink alpenglow touches their bodies. The side of the mountain appears to burn. The coloring is that of ash and ember. Like long-fired coals glow when exposed to air, this ember of a mountain emits a deep orange red, darkening as it has for millennia. The quenching ritual continues in colors shifting to red. Slowly the mountain gives up its color to the darkness of night. The couple embrace as they witness the great spectacle. Experiencing it genuinely can never be simulated by holographic projection. Holographists strive to create an artificial simulation of this experience. Replication remains unobtainable. Shadow begins to ascend the mountain. A tiny sliver of light is visible on the horizon. Shadow embraces the summit. For the briefest of moments, the couple bathe in the last rays of light as it moves over their bodies. Before it is finally over, their faces alone glow with elephanescent radiance. The darkness of night envelops them. There is a feeling of desolation and exultation. The silence is deafening. Their eyes adjust to the darkness. They are surrounded by the vastness of the night sky. The galactic plane encompasses their field of vision. The suns, planet, and Acrophon appeared enormous moments before. Now the expansiveness of the galaxy makes their home feel so small. A purple background dotted with blue and white specks of light divulge the existence of billions of neighbor stars. Darker regions harbor gorgeous blinking points of light. They are like lighthouses marking a channel in the middle of detectable nothingness. The couple stands over the dimly illuminated planet they call home. In all directions, Altion stretches to the horizon. They are quite literally standing on top of their world. Chad's thoughts shift to hordes of undiscovered wonders. Kaya looks up to the stars and wonders what is on the other side of all this. Surely there must be something different and wonderful. A few minutes pass before the couple realizes that the timeliness of this place must acquiesce to the march of their schedules. Chad hails the Gravita craft from the valley below. Time spent awaiting its arrival isn't wasted. Chad finds himself connected to something here he cannot describe. All the great lights seem so close, so obtainable. They are like a part of him, like a hand or leg. Even so, he knows so little about them. He can go to the star charts in the Sims. He can speak the names his people give them. He can analyze the spectral composition of their radiation. Assigning a name is not understanding. Understanding comes from knowing something so well that it becomes internalized. The names are irrelevant. In many ways, the difference between self and other do not exist. The Gravita craft settles in on the peak. Chad and Kaya climb on board. Chad presses the docking button on the Gravita orb case. Their rides up the mountain neatly stow themselves for the ride home. The cabin closes, and the craft starts back to Garamindia. Kaya falls asleep in her chair shortly after removing her gear and buckling in. Chad reflects on the day's events. The idea of skimming up a mountain or watching a sunset from the great heights of the Acrophon were ideas previous generations could not fathom. Creative ideas expand the realms of possibility, thus driving innovation. Innovation drives possibility and creativity. Ideas are built on ideas. Intellectual achievement stands on the shoulders of collective achievement. The reiterative process is the foundation of progress. The well generator was once a fantasy. For it to work, a completely different understanding of gravity was required. Even then, the understanding was so backwards that it took the mind of an inventor whose main achievements were in the field of quantum communications to unlock the foundational concepts of modern gravitational theory. Once it was discovered that gravity could be manipulated on a micro scale, it changed the solar system. The new theory created a whole branch of science referred to as tingology. Chad believes tingology will help him overcome the inherent limitations of quantum computing. The lights of the great city appear over the rim of the ancient crater. As they fly in over the buildings, Chad contrasts the wilderness of the mountains with the sophistication of the city. The primitive spirit of the mountains maintains its hold on his psyche. He will have to adapt to living in civilization once more. As the craft approaches their home, it glides gracefully into its docking bay. Chad wakes Kaya. They quietly make their way into the home. Once inside, Kaya reminds Chad, "I will be having eggs and a spirulina shake in the morning. Please inform the domestic AIs of my victory. Do feel free to intersperse embellishments befitting my greatness. I think you have had way too much sleep. I never could understand how you fall asleep so easily in the Gravita craft. Good night. I will be sure to enlighten the AIs about chivalry as it pertains to letting a woman win. It is the gentlemanly thing to do." Chad climbs into bed with his beloved life partner, Kaya. The high mountain air always has a way of hastening the encounter with sleep.